Welcome back, everyone. Episode 36 of the Weekly Boost podcast. Here again with just Ben and I. Another solo week for us, but we tend to do these quite often when we're, just wanting to express ourselves in a way, and when we're in between guests and stuff like that. So we look forward to talking to you guys and doing these little these solo episodes. But today, we have some little more deep and kind of personal topics we're going to discuss. We're going to venture into some of the people in our past lives some of the people in our past that have kind of shaped who we are. Talked about what shapes our ideologies in numerous episodes and whatnot. So we're going to kind of dive into that. But after that, we're going to get into some pod decks.
Not recycled questions, but tap into our sponsorship with them again. And it's exciting. I know you're fully vaccinated now, right?
That's right. Yep. Wednesday.
It knocked you.
Yeah, it knocked me out pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we both got the same vaccine, and it affected us both a little differently.
Yeah, you kind of had a little bit more mild of a reaction to it, which is fine. Me, it was pretty textbook to the symptoms that people have been experiencing. But I'm feeling perfectly fine now.
I was gonna say, give us a little timeline of how that all went down for you.
So I got it Wednesday morning.
Okay.
And I practically felt normal. I golfed a little bit on Wednesday morning, kind of before my classes. Went to classes fine, and then kind of a little bit after dinner time. So about 10 hours or so after the injection, arm was feeling a little sore, and then I could feel the fatigue actually set in pretty good. And then that night it was some chills and a fever and, waking up feeling like garbage. So yeah, I experienced that. But what was great about it and what's continuing to be great about it, it was only a day. That was like, I just had one day and I took a nap and I felt a little better after that. But it's kind of odd, not so much odd, but just how it's that one day thing that, there's like, you'll feel it a couple days or maybe just one day. Well, how the symptoms started and then how they ended pretty quickly was kind of remarkable. So.
Yeah, for me, it was just, that next day I had a headache and just felt fatigued, and I was, back to normal the day after. But, my parents were able to come down too, for Easter.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about that last time, but real quick visit. I didn't realize I hadn't seen them in 4 months. It seems
it's been a while. It was the last time I saw you was the last time you saw them in person. So
yeah, no, you came down in January.
Yeah,
whatever. I'm saying I saw you before that. Anyway, I felt bad because I had a lot of reading and homework to do, but no, it was nice and got some our floating gardens, if you will. They're all ready to go for the summer. But yeah, I'm happy again, to talk about some deep things with you because like we said before, I think sometimes it gets kind of lost in conversation and reflections and and hopefully you could take things from these Poddex questions and just what we talk about. But I think you wanted to take the lead with this first part. So
yeah, you're kind of getting into what I was wanting to talk about. But over the past couple of days, you start to, I don't know if it's because of like social media, but like memories pop up and kind of just an inspiration for like looking at your past and kind of reflecting on it more or less in a way to not only remember your past, but to make sure that it doesn't happen again, kind of a thing. Like you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your triumphs in your past, and kind of how you overcome those or how you didn't overcome those kind of shape who you are. And a lot of that is from the people that I've surrounded myself with. This past couple of weeks has been obviously the baseball season is kind of full swing for, my collegiate career as well as my high school baseball career and like all that sort of stuff. And so a lot of those individuals were popping up and just like, wow, I met that coach and, he showed me this sort of thing, or like I met that, teammate and kind of built the relationship off of that. And it made me thankful for those, but also like kind of the relationships that I've built in the classroom as well as other people like that we've had on this podcast have kind of shown me, based off their experiences, what they did and how maybe I could follow in those footsteps or maybe learn from their mistakes with them to kind of avoid that sort of stuff. I just thought it was an interesting discussion topic. And just so happens one of our favorite musicians that kind of released a song recently honors the late Larry King in his discussion and like sort of his motivational speaking and stuff like that. But I've been kind of filled with social media feeds lately about how just motivation from people's past experiences and kind of shape who we are today. So
Yeah, I think, like in my case, it kind of started to, it started to be a bigger point for me in the past like a few years when you realize how influential your parents are in programming you. Because I mean, really, at the most basic level, you're half of each of your parents, but then the environment you grow up in and that really influences who you are. So without a doubt, my parents have shaped who I am. So it's kind of nice to tie into their visit last week, but. You're right that I've said it so many times that you don't realize what someone does or their, the impact of the career till they're gone. But, being able to pave your own path while drawing on the experiences of others, I think is really important, because you're right. Like you said, if you fall back into like similar mistakes of someone else, or like sometimes you got to go through it yourself.
Exactly.
There's a lot of instances that with dating life or with like other things, like it's so hard in the moment to think, to listen to your friends on the outside. They see it, and you're in the middle of a relationship that isn't necessarily good for either of you or whatever it is. Like, sometimes you just got to go through it and make that mistake for yourself, because really, like, that's the easiest way to learn. Like the mistakes I've made at work, in school, I will never forget the time that I, skimped on sources for a speech my freshman year of college. Like you don't forget those experiences. But yeah, I don't know.
It's the whole reason why we made this podcast, I feel like, is that we kind of learn from people's mistakes as well as their positive experiences equally.
Absolutely.
And how we can set our own path with that. And it's really important to understand that no matter what we say or do, it's going to be, our own story. And we're just using, I guess, to kind of give a little bit of an example from what you were talking about, using their experience as a source, like as a reference source, to kind of be like, okay, we can base our journey off of something somebody else did, while at the same time maintaining our own narrative. And I think that's important because we've become so, just for lack of a better term, hell bent on creating an image in the likeliness of the people that we are like inspired by. So like you see somebody like a professional baseball player, right? And you want to be that person, and you'll do whatever it takes, in the weight room and, on the field, off the field, eating right, all this sort of stuff, because you want to be like them. And that's fine. It's great for motivation, but oftentimes it's unfortunate that you lose sight and you lose track of the idea. Well, hey, I'll never be able to be that person. It's great that I'm trying to find that way and find that path to become more like them, but I have to be true to myself in some things, or in most. Like it's one thing to, change some sort of lifestyle choices and stuff like that, but you start seeing a lot of this mimicry, like this idea that we need to be almost as similar as possible to people that we think are successful. And we're only judging that based off of the positive stuff. Like you see the person raking in $300 million, or you see the person making brand deal after brand deal, whether it's on social media or it's on some sort of sports platform, or, you see them on TV or whatnot. They're dropping amazing music, all these sorts of things that people are just the top of their, their field. They become role models in a way that people want to aspire to be them. But I feel like sometimes it really detracts from individuality and the idea that we as a single person are as unique as almost anything on this planet. Like, we're all different, and we try to be so alike to other people that we lose that. And it's unfortunate, but we see that more and more today as, trends and stuff.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I struggled with it and I still do. I mean, it's so hard to escape it. But, thinking back to some of the decisions I make, like material decisions, right? Like what I'm going to buy, because my friend has, a pair of this, so I'll get a different colorway. Or I saw, my favorite athlete wearing these, cleats, so I'm going to get similar ones. Like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This like fine line of mimicry versus like infatuation with it, where you want to like endure that experience too.
Mhm.
Like when you're a kid, like for me, it was Jeff Jenkins, right?
Yeah.
I watch him growing up, and that, like you said, makes you, you imitate his batting stance,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
all of that. You want to be that, but like as you grow up, it's more so about like fitting in,
Yeah.
and like you said, it detracts from being authentic,
Yeah.
and that's, one of the things that I want to keep striving towards, because everyone is their own person.
Mhm.
Everyone has their own intentions. Everyone has their own goals. But when everyone tries to be like the same person,
Yeah.
you miss out. You're too worried about, oh, I'm gonna, look just like this person, or like try to, and like that's not what it's about.
Yeah. And it's perfectly okay to want to be, to want to have the same amount of success as other people. Like
Yeah,
that's the inherent drive that we have, is to be as successful as possible, regardless if that's monetarily or just spiritually or whatever it is. Like that's a perfectly acceptable desire.
yeah,
But when it comes at the cost of sacrificing who you are as an individual and a unique individual, um, that kind of takes away from the idea that it's, that it's the true meaning of success. Like,
yeah,
is the true meaning of success really being, a carbon copy of somebody else? Like, does that, I don't understand how that is successful. And that could just be me and like kind of my interpretation of it. But there's a fine line, and we
yeah,
tiptoe it every day. And like I'm not gonna be like sit on here and preach from the soapbox saying that, I don't try to copy anybody. Like, no,
yeah.
like I have numerous things in my room that I'm looking at right now that I purchased or that I have as that were inspired by other people, like,
Hmm.
you included. Like, you've
Yeah,
gotten stuff, and like I'm sure it's the same way. And so like we do this, but it's the fact that we can do it consciously and understand it.
yeah. And I think also like not, um, oh, it's escaping me. This idea of not being present
Yeah.
at the expense of, so, that's kind of, I don't want to say I have like regrets, but I have this like fear of missing out a lot. um
FOMO, baby. It's
yeah,
real.
it's well, it's real, and it affects me sometimes,
Yeah.
where it's like I'm so focused on, being a part of the experience, as opposed like, maybe it's going out with friends for a night, and you just don't want to miss out on the experience, and like what
Hmm.
happens, or be out of the know like the next morning, we're like, oh, did you see what, so and
Yeah.
so did at the bar? Like, on nights where I might, should have just gotten, 8 hours of sleep and went to class the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
that whole thing, and being authentic and being present, I think, is what it's all about, and not, you know, recognizing that your life is totally different from someone else's. And,
Yeah.
if you make some decisions along the way that kind of stray towards them, it's all about who you surround yourself with
It
too,
is. Yeah.
and that kind of helps those types of decisions. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I don't know.
It's an interesting one, and we deal with it every day. And
Yeah.
kind of getting back to the heroes of the past that inspire us for these sorts
Mhm.
of things. And for us, it was obviously a lot about, baseball players, because let's just, say it how it is. That's what we wanted to be growing up, right? I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure you wanted to be a professional baseball player.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I know I did too. Like, it's just, it was the thing that we found the most passion in and the most success in too. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. Mimicking baseball stances, mimicking, oh yeah, I know, Greg Maddux throws this nasty pitch. Like, here, let me try to throw this and play catch. And then you sail
Mhm.
it over your partner's head, kind of a thing. Like, we did those things, not necessarily because we wanted to be successful with it, but we wanted to be just like that person and like our idol. And you see that all the time. And I'm grateful for it, because it kind of teaches me, what it truly means to be successful. It's not about
Mhm.
like how much of what you have, it's like what you have, like right then and there. Like,
Yeah.
the whole idea of like quality over quantity type thing for me is really what deems success, is like how much you actually find your soul and your passion into something is what's successful. And yeah, it's just the memories popping up kind of made me think about this idea for this episode. And it's a little
Yeah.
not convoluted, but it's a back and forth, and we struggle with it. And by saying we, I mean, everybody, not just, you and I, because it's not an it's not just a regional problem. It's a
No,
global
not at
kind
all.
of, human race type problem. So
It's it's scary sometimes to think back to that. My senior year is 3 years ago at Ripon, let's say, and revisiting some of those, and it's yeah. But you gotta realize that time doesn't stop for anyone.
no,
So
it doesn't. Yep, exactly.
but
Well,
do you? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to get
yeah.
into pod decks and
Yeah, we can, take a little break for a second and then kind of get into our pod decks. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the first half was kind of disconcerted in many ways. There wasn't
Yeah,
a
a little
necessary
bit.
theme, but sometimes that's how conversations go. But
Yeah, it's about as organic as it came.
yeah, we wanted to tap back into pod decks because we haven't really used them in the latest episodes. I don't remember the last time we used it. Maybe with Patty. I don't know.
Maybe.
But so again, I still have all 4 of these decks. What the heck? Would you rather? And then the 2 interview decks. So I took a couple from each. So we'll see where this goes. I didn't share all of them with you.
Yeah.
But they do have a new app. I don't know if you saw that with like all of their decks. They have new ones coming in all the time. So check that out. And I think our code's still live.
Yeah, they have some pretty cool merch too. Honestly,
Yeah.
I know if not everybody's like recording a podcast or making one, but
Yeah.
like I have a pretty cool T-shirt that kind of little tribute to like the classic rock kind of font. Just stuff like that. They have a cool hat and like stickers and stuff. They're really they're a great company for people starting podcasts like us. And
in their app they have equipment to use, like better and best depending on your price options and things like that. So it's really a useful tool, and
very much so.
We're not just saying that because we have a
code and stuff, but like we actually mean it. Like we're thumbing through the app trying to get some little talking points here and there in between episodes and stuff just to refresh us. So it's a good resource.
So the first one comes from What the Heck. So we'll start a little more lighthearted and move deeper. But back in high school, what was the strangest thing someone could find in your locker?
Oh man. Okay, honestly, this might be a weird one, but like I swear these didn't exist in my high school, and if they did, somebody had the stash. But staplers.
Really?
I could never find a stapler, and I know like teachers had them, but I always felt weird to like ask my teacher.
Yeah.
So I had a stapler. And
did you have like a full size one?
No,
or like the little one?
Yeah, I had like the full sizer. The big one, because me, you need 300 staples in a year.
Yeah. I just got done substitute teaching again this week, and it's amazing how like different the school has changed even since I've been. And that sounds like I'm on my front porch in a rocking chair saying that, but like it's true. Everybody gets a MacBook at this one school I was at, and but like for me, and you can kind of tell, but it's not necessarily a thing you could find every paper that I was like ever given. It was all I think I still have like my backpack, like one of those cinch backpacks, that I used like my junior year of high school. And I had like every single paper in there, to the point where like the ink and the pencil, like the writing would like blend together and you couldn't even tell what it is anyway. But like it was so messy.
Yep.
And I have no idea like why I didn't get a folder, maybe. Like it was just like paper on paper. I don't get it.
Hey, you could use a stapler.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, and I guess the second one, kind of honorable mention, is I had a bag of baseballs in my locker all the time. I know we had like sports lockers, for like the locker room and stuff. Nah, I had my bat and a bag of baseballs in my locker at all times, just because I don't know. Yeah, weird. Baseball players are weird.
True. All right, so stick with the education theme. If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would you teach?
Oh, kind of foreshadowing, but microbiology, kind of pretty interesting.
Do you think you could keep people's attention? Or do you think they would
Yeah,
just like
I think so.
zonk out
No,
on you?
no, I think I could. I'd
Yeah.
be able to relate it to some pretty modern stuff, and that's the part that's really cool. Is you never think about it until you actually like take even like a little crash course, like a 2-week crash course, and you'd learn so much. Like the entire world, it's a microbial world. We're just living in it. Well, that's about as true as a statement as you could come across. Like
Yeah.
the amount of surfaces that you touch, come in contact with that are covered in bacteria that are good for you, but can also harm you. It's pretty outstanding, the amount of work it takes, or the amount of work people have put in to understand this sort of invisible field of science, as
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah.
So
For me, I don't want to stick with the obvious. Oh, like history. That's what you're going to, graduate school for. But like, I think I could do like an introductory nightlight stained glass course.
that's a good one. You pretty much did that for me, and I made my
Yeah.
little nightlight over there. So
I mean, were you given adequate information from me and my dad?
if I'm going to be honest with
Do
you,
it.
I could reproduce something similar now. Like I still remember the stuff.
Perfect.
But
Well,
what's
there
great
you
about
go.
what you did is because it's a hands-on kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you could, because, well, I'm a hands-on learner just by nature. Like if I
Mhm.
do something, I remember it more easily if I did it like with my hands instead of like sitting down and like reading a PowerPoint about how to make stained glass,
Yeah.
ornaments or something like that. So like, yeah, that worked for me. So
Yeah. There's, I don't know if you know this, but there's like fabric stores and like quilt shops
mhm.
that do like classes.
Okay.
So my dad wired like one of these like craft stores, if you will, and they
Mhm.
had like a back classroom that you could teach classes at, and a lot of times stained glass studios do that too, and
Mhm.
I don't know, it's a good like date night idea too. You see those like
Yeah.
paint and drinking places, but anyway, we'll move on. Um, I, I feel like I already know the answer to this, but if you can instantly become one, what would you want to be an expert in?
Oh, if I could instantly become one, it would be astrophysics.
Just go to space.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like if that was what it was, and like don't get me wrong,
Instant.
love everything else. Instantly, if I could become, like
I think
100% an expert in that, oh,
I
without a
think
doubt.
that's interesting too, because like the obvious answer is microbiome, because I'll be an
Yeah, that's what I
expert. But
do.
like,
Yeah.
but isn't it nice to like fall in love with the process of it, of getting to that knowledge? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
would you rather have like all that information like implanted into your brain, or like
It's funny
go
you
through
say
the
that.
process? Oh
Because
God.
I said that answer based off of my knowledge of how poorly I did in physics. So I went through that process, and
That is
I'd just
funny.
much rather know all the information I need to know rather than that process.
That was my worst
So
course too, but I don't. It was one of those where it's like you took calculus in high school. You took,
yeah,
I think I took AB, and so it's like, oh, I'll take the calc-based physics, and at the end of your career, like it didn't matter.
no,
Like 151 versus 171 was the same
yeah,
thing.
yep,
Just a waste of my GPA. But
yeah, tanking it freshman year for me. That's what mine
yeah,
was.
yeah, it was a crawl back to.
My only semester of college that I did not receive honors. I know it's going to be a humble brag, but it was because
Ooh.
of that class. So, no,
Well,
shame.
what's we can edit this one out, but what's something I would never guess about you?
I guess my martial arts background.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, I
I don't.
was very young when I did it. Now, granted, but I was 2 belts away from a black belt in the sort of branch of karate that I was in. So
I don't know. I think I won't know what to say
I'd
for
say
this one.
probably your vinyl that you like vinyl
Oh yeah, it just kind of started getting
or
into
the
that.
stained glass thing. Honestly, if you didn't show
Yeah,
me the stuff that you made, like
yeah,
that's that would have
that's
probably been
fair.
a good
And
one.
it's not like
Yeah.
it's like all over like social media.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Oh my
saying. It's
gosh,
like
look at
I
this.
don't think I've ever posted anything about karate unless like I told people. So
Yeah.
there you go, everyone. Now you
All right.
know.
This one's from the second edition interview deck as well. That's a good one. What's the dumbest way you've been injured?
Oh man. So just coming off of ACL surgery, right?
Oh
Like
no.
this is just like I was able to come back. I was cleared. I just pitched in my first game back. Threw really well. I was feeling great.
Hmm.
And as pitchers, obviously, you during practice, there's only a little like so much you can do in high school. And so one of our tasks was to help the hitters, either like like help them, do zone selection when they're hitting or whatnot, or like do soft toss or stuff like that, just stuff, to kill the time for everybody else. And we were in the cage, and one of our hitters I was soft tossing to roped a ball off the pole right next to the batting cage, and it ricocheted off the pole and clocked me in the side of the head and was knocked out for about 3 seconds and didn't have a concussion, but I had a pretty solid welt on the side of my face. Like it was, golf ball sized, and couldn't play for a little bit again. So
that reminds me of, this wasn't my answer for it. I got a different story for that, but similar. I was in high school and we were at a baseball hitting facility that I like worked at and knew the owner, good friends with them. And I was throwing soft toss, but in order to like make it easier, I always like threw soft toss right, like underhand, front toss, right-handed. So like you didn't have to flip the cage around every time we switched, and I just learned how to throw it right-handed, right?
Yeah.
So I'm throwing, and you know how L screens are, the pole's right here, and I threw it in my hand, must have been just enough. And there was a comebacker. Yeah. It didn't hit the pole, like the L screen, like pipe. It just right into my hand.
Right in your hand.
And I just like, I was like moving around, like some of those injuries where you're like, oh, it's not so bad. And then you like stop moving it and it just like starts hitting. Yep. So I was done and I went to drive home. And of course I have a manual, a stick shift. Yeah. So I'm like, I have to shift with my other hand, my left hand. I have to it was brutal. Luckily I only lived 3/4 of a mile away.
Keeper in first.
Yeah, like everybody's honking behind you, and I'm so sorry, like I can't even. But
20 poo.
The dumbest way I think I've been injured. It's baseball related as well, but I don't know if you were playing with the A's at this point. I think it was before. I think it was my junior or after my junior season, but. We were in like this weekend series, and I went because how the A's are. We have a ton of games, like 55 games in a summer, just not a lot of days off. But we were frisbee golfing, and we went to a different one that we don't normally go to in Sheboygan, and I'm ready to take my first shot, and I usually kind of like skip into it,
Yeah.
There's a gap about this big at the end of the tee box, a piece of concrete that I don't realize. So I get all the way to the edge and just like sprain my ankle on the end of it. It's like just a stupid, like you're going out to frisbee golf, like relax, And it's like, I couldn't pitch that day and it was brutal, but
boo.
Yeah, pretty anticlimactic, but whatever.
No, I'm talking about frolfing.
Yeah. Can you imagine? So what's the most awkward thing that happens to you on a regular basis?
Oh man, I had a really good one. Kind of forgot it, but I think that one thing that I do, this might not be too awkward, but get locked out of my room. I've done that too many times to feel comfortable with myself having my own place. So yeah, that's pretty awkward, is when you have to call people to come open your stuff.
Now, like for me, it's when I'm walking on campus, clearly with headphones in, and like if I hold the door for someone, or like I'm they try to talk to me, it's like, like I can't hear you. Yeah. That's awkward, and like the in between distance of like holding the door for someone versus not, you're just like,
that's a mood killer, right?
And then you feel bad if you just like slam the door on them, and then it's just.
I always try to give the door a nice hefty push, if
just enough to keep it open.
Yeah, just enough.
But all right, this one's from the Would You Rather.
Okay.
Would you rather be forced to high five everyone you make eye contact with, or strike up conversations with at least 5 strangers a day?
I'm gonna definitely go with the conversations, because if I'm gonna be honest with you, one thing that this pandemic has kind of taught me is I don't need physical touch to be greeted by somebody. I think it's kind of not gross, but I'm kind of a germ phobe sometimes. So I'd feel more comfortable conversing with people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's I take that from my dad. He can talk to anybody, so it's not as awkward as trying to high five people.
This kind of taught me how to talk to everybody, if I'm gonna be honest with you. So
we talked about it in the first half or first quarter, whatever you want to classify it as, but when you think about success, who comes to mind and why?
Oh man. You know what? This is gonna be a little homer for me, but when I think of success, I think of my parents. And that's just, just how passionate they are for being parents as well. They do a heck of a job raising my sister and I, kind of not the right way, because I don't think there's necessarily like
Yeah.
a good or bad way, but like raising us to be independent yet dependent, appropriate whenever needed, and just kind of honorable people and like respectful. And I know some people obviously have different opinions about this sort of thing, but never coming from a significantly, rich kind of background money wise, but what we lacked in money when we didn't have a lot of it, what we had in like heart and like care for each other.
Yeah.
And like kind of talking about what I talked about in the first, part of this show, just like what success actually means to me, and like what success means on paper, like the definition of it is often associated with money. And so that's how I, never compared the two to be, money success. Like that's different than like true success in my opinion. So
Yeah. I've kind of had that changing definition of success too. When you're in, growing up, you're like, well, I want to make, all this money, because that's just like what our society kind of deems as successful. But I think just as much of that equation is liking what you do.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's should drive your decision making as well. But
yeah,
would you rather be able to erase people's memory or predict their future?
oh man, you know what, I'm gonna say predict the future, because we
Okay.
talked about it before for a long time. The past shapes us, who we are. It matters. We can forget about it, but at the same time, it'll always be there, kind of like it's in the history books. And you say you're a history major, like that's what you're, going into. So obviously you have to be surrounded by this, because I think it's important that if you understand the history in the past, you're less likely to repeat it, because you can learn from the mistakes of other people, including yourself. And I think that's important, because we're at a turning point in our society and our like, our time here on earth, that we need to stop making the same mistakes over and over again. And so I think if we could predict the future, maybe it would awaken more people, kind of a thing. Like, hey, this is going to happen. You can still change it, because
Yeah.
it's a prediction. There's obviously probability for that prediction to fall through, but at the same time, there's a likelihood of it existing. So maybe it'd spark some, light a fire under people, kind of get them going to like do the right thing, or,
Yeah. I think of, based on how this question is phrased, like predict their future.
Oh,
I think I would do that too.
Okay.
Because so much of like reconstructing the past is like trying to like work through memory and how people remember things.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to avoid the future thing, because I think sometimes the beauty of the future is not knowing.
That's true. That's a good point.
And that's the opposite of what you had said. So I think that's good
point, though.
Good for conversation here. But
Yeah.
Based on how it's phrased, I think if I didn't have to tell them, if I could just predict their future, like I wouldn't want somebody else to.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want somebody else to take my memories away, because like that's pretty crappy, if you ask me. But
that's not cool.
All right, last one.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you got something good for this. But if you could send a message to the entire world, what would you say in 30 seconds?
Well, time's ticking, Austin.
No, you're usually good at this.
I know.
Closing motivational stuff. So we'll leave it to that.
I keep seeing this theme reoccur over and over again, and we kind of struggle with this, with the idea of climate change and like how this world is our world and stuff like that. It might be a little pessimistic, but this world really isn't ours, if you think about it. We are just, another species on this planet. It'll revolve around the sun until the sun implodes, kind of a thing. Like we're here because we were given the random opportunity by something. I'm not talking about a specific deity or whatnot, like just some sort of scientific, progression happened and we're here. And so the earth isn't going to care whether or not we pollute it till it's, completely desolate and uninhabitable. It doesn't care. It's an inanimate object, yet it holds animate beings. So it's kind of a weird, conjunction there. But it's what we make of that situation, because we want to prolong our time on this planet. And sort of getting into the idea, isn't Earth Day coming up?
22nd.
22nd. Okay, maybe we'll talk
Mhm.
about it in a couple podcast episodes from now. But the idea of, you have to realize that this planet doesn't care what we do. We have to care what we do to this planet, because if we want to make sure that we stay around. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what it is. Like, kind of do your part in making sure that this place is a better place for not only yourself but your children, because we may not stick around as long as people think because of what we're doing to it, and it's terrifying. But
Yeah.
planet doesn't care. It's not like it's not like if it has feelings. Like, as sad as that sounds, it doesn't. It will revolve around the sun whether or not we exist on this planet, unless we physically blow it up, which, very well could happen. But I'm just saying.
Yeah. That's scary stuff.
Yeah. Sorry.
No,
you're
you're
like
fine.
hyping me up to be like super optimistic.
you're like,
hey,
build
weekly
people
booze,
up.
let's go. It's like, nah, just be good to the planet, otherwise it doesn't care.
I think for me, just from my experience, is just like stop caring what people think. Just do what you want to do.
It's excellent.
Because you're just gonna think yourself to death. But
yeah, you're just gonna be disappointed in yourself if you.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So looking ahead, we got a couple guests coming up.
Yeah.
We have the month of May, which is a really special month for us. Hopefully. Yep.
Inaugural special month for us. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah. I looked at that fundraiser webpage and you saw it too. It looks great.
It's amazing.
Really happy to our friends over there
at ACS. They're incredible people.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. We'll have some guests and some themed episodes coming up with that too. I'm super excited about it. It'll be really nice. My school year will be basically over. At least I think my last paper is like due on the 14th, but regardless, it'll be a fun time. So
I'll be walking that stage and then looking forward to the future. Some
cool
stuff coming that way too.
Are they doing?
Oh yeah, it's all in person.
Nice.
Well, my parents will be able to be there to kind of congratulate me and stuff like that. And I know a lot of my family members want to be there too, but obviously the situation kind of deems it not necessary at the time, which is unfortunate. Obviously it's necessary that, family members get to see, somebody walk across the stage, but that's neither here nor there. So
yeah. Is it? Yeah, it's gotta be weird.
But here we are.
Changes, things change, and
right.
We getting your diploma and moving on. So
yep.
Well, stick around for next week, and we appreciate the love so far.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us and interacting. We appreciate it. Peace out.